video today, one for Elder Scrolls Online. This is the video game that I play the most, and this is a build video for my melee magic style Magden build. So let me go ahead and buff up. So right now at 34.6 max mag, 1663 mag recovery, 29k max health, 1300 health recovery, 14k max stam, 744 stam recovery, sitting at 5,845 spell damage. That actually goes up with the backbar weapon power split. Sitting at 42.9% spell crit, 7k spell penetration. The weapon stuff doesn't matter as much. 26k spell resistance, 22.5k physical resistance, 1300 critical resistance. And as you can see in the advanced stats, we actually get a substantial boost to our frost damage, a 37% boost. And that is relevant due to the gear sets we are currently using. So for the weapons and jewels, I'm running 2 swords of Mother Sorrow on the front bar, 1 sharpened, 1 nirnhoned. This gets buffed with the passives for the dual wield. You get a 3% damage increase equal to the offhand weapons damage, and the swords increase the spell damage as well as weapon damage. Running crown lethal poisons on the front bar just to try it out. It's not exactly necessary. On the back bar, running Vateshran's ice staff. It gives a ability modifier to the weakness to elements, tethering you for 10 seconds to a target within 15 meters. Since we have the frost staff, it's going to deal 2,256 frost damage every 1 second, which increases by 1% each time it deals damage up to 20%. In addition, the actual ability itself is going to reduce their physical and spell resistance by 5,480. So basically increasing our penetration up to about 12k. In the head slot, running Gaze of Sithis just for survivability. It adds 3,276 max health, 1,025 health recovery, 4,000 armor, but reduces your block mitigation to 0. For me, the block mitigation to 0 is not that big of a deal. If you're like me, who you never remember to actually hit the block button, this just gives you survivability for not remembering to block. So I just kind of prefer running this. I do have a Divines with a Max Magicka glyph. And then the body pieces. And I should also say all 7 pieces of the body are all Divines. And our Mundus stone is the apprentice to increase our spell damage further. But the main set that I'm running is the Frostbite set. So it adds 2 lines of spell damage, 1 line of spell crit, and then for the 5-piece bonus, it increases your damage done with frost abilities by 8%, increase your damage done against chilled enemies by 4%, and increase your damage done against enemies afflicted with minor brittle by 2%. If you hit all of those debuffs and using frost damage, you're essentially doing an extra 14% damage. And that gets amplified further once we go over the skills, and you'll see what I mean. So 5 pieces of Frostbite, all Divines, and all Max Magicka. The last piece on the body is just Pirate Skeletons, Pauldrons, also Divines, just for a little extra armor, both between being heavy as well as the 1-piece bonus there. And the Mother Sorrow jewelry, all infused with spell damage. Going over the skills on the front bar, and let me buff up. Our main spammable is going to be Elemental Weapon. This adds an extra 12,000 magic damage to our light attacks, and applies either burning, concussion, or chilled to the enemy. If you don't hit an enemy in time, then you restore 1,400 magicka. Duration's only 2 seconds. Additionally, if you keep spamming that, you get those little orbs floating around you from the Psijic passive. When you hit 5, it deals extra magic damage. Also, the deep fissure in 3 seconds if they pop off for an extra 19k magic damage and gives them major breach. Arctic Blast. It's our only real source of healing apart from potions, but it also is a heal over time as well as an initial burst heal and AoE frost damage. Running Inner Light for the max magicka increase and the spell critical increase. Bird of Prey, while slotted, you gain minor berserk, increasing your damage done by another 5%. So in addition to the frostbite buffs, you're also getting the Bird of Prey minor berserk at all times. And then the ulti is the Ice Comet. While buffed, you're going to blast them for 29,375 frost damage, knock them down and stun them for 2 seconds, reduce their movement speed by 50% for 5 seconds, and deal an extra 7,800 frost damage every second for 13 seconds. On the back bar, Ultimate's Precognition, just to get out of the crowd control. Blue Betty to restore max magicka, as well as cleanse and give yourself major brutality and sorcery. Elemental Drain gives them major breach, also gives them minor magicka steal. So while you're damaging them, you're restoring 168 magicka every 1 second. And since we are using the Vateshran Frost Staff, you're also getting that tether that's dealing constant frost damage to them. Ice Fortress, this is our major resolve buff, also grants minor protection. Unstable Wall of Frost, this is going to do an AoE that deals frost damage every 1 second, grants you a damage shield that absorbs from projectiles for 6 seconds, and also explodes for another 8,892 frost damage when reapplying the shield again. And then the Winter's Revenge. This isn't exactly a skill that most people would use. It does not deal a whole lot of damage, but since we're running the Frostbite set, the fact that the last line there has an increased chance to apply the chilled status effect, that's going to give us an extra 4% damage with our Frostbite. And because all Frost abilities also have the chance of applying minor brittle, it increases our damage further by 2%, while also increasing our critical damage. For the race for this class, I'm running the Dark Elf, just for the extra boost to max magic and stamina, as well as the flame resistance and the increase to spell damage. So why I went with swords for this build, because that's a question I was being asked on Reddit, is for these passives here. So it increases your weapon and spell damage by 6% of the offhand weapon's damage. If you remember, the offhand weapon is also Nirnhoned, which increases that weapon's damage by 15%. So that way you're really just maximizing on the spell damage you get. And then the Twin Blade and Blunt, each sword is going to increase the weapon and spell damage by 142, so you're looking at 284 increase to the spell damage. And then other passives that are really worth mentioning is the Psijic Order passives. Clairvoyance reduced the cost by 15% with the spell orb specifically. The elemental weapon, that is a spammable, so whenever we're hitting that, we're getting a spell charge that lasts for 5 seconds, 10 seconds. And when you hit 5, then it deals an extra 4,842 magic damage to the nearest enemy. Concentrated Barrier. Again, we don't have block mitigation, but the shield can at least absorb 2,500 damage for us, just to really try and negate as much damage as possible. Every 10 seconds we're able to use that shield again just for blocking, but it's really just to soak up a little bit of damage. Again, we have 0 block mitigation with the Gaze of Sithis Helm, so just keep that in mind. And then of course you got your Undaunted passives. The other thing I wanted to go over was the Animal Companions. This one right here, the Advanced Species. So on our front bar, since we have the Bird of Prey and the beatles, we're getting an extra 4% increase to our damage done, plus the 5% for minor berserk at all times, and then with all of the frostbite, if you have all of those debuffs, that's an extra 14%. So really, between all of it, you're looking at a 20% increase in all of your damage output if the person is chilled, has brittle, and you're using your frost abilities. And then For the champion points, the green tree really not that meaningful. I just make a point of going into liquid efficiency for increased chance of not consuming your potions and poisons when you use them, as well as the increase to our food duration. For the red tree, I'll just go over the slottables because I think these are the most important. I like expert evasion since we are a magicka build and we only have 14k max stamina. Getting a free roll dodge every 30 seconds can really be the difference of life and death. Same thing with slippery, we get a free break free at no cost every 21 seconds. Rejuvenation increases our health, magic, and stamina recovery. And then the boundless vitality just for max health increase. For the blue tree, the only ones really worth mentioning apart from the slottables is in this little the extended might tree. Go all in on the offensive penetration. You want 40 into flawless ritual. This increases your chance to apply magical status effects by 60%, so just further increasing your chance to hit them with chilled, as well as minor brittle to just maximize the effectiveness of the frostbite set. And obviously just get the extra 100 magic damage to your frost abilities. Apart from that, for the slottables, I went with Arcane Supremacy just for 1300 extra max mag, Untamed Aggression for 150 extra weapon and spell damage, Biting Auras to increase our damage done with area of effect attacks by 10%. That counts the beatles, it counts the Arctic Blast, it counts the Meteor, it counts pretty much all of our abilities except for the elemental weapon. And then Master at Arms, increased damage done with direct damage attacks by 10%. That again increases the magical weapon, it increases the beatles, it increases the direct damage portion of the Ice Comet, as well as the direct damage portion of the Unstable Wall of Elements. So all of those things just really stacking up all of the damage. As far as the Mundus Stone, again I went with the Apprentice with 7 pieces of Divines. That's increasing our spell damage by an extra 389. And the food I'm using is the Clockwork Citrus Fillet. If you don't have this, which Mother's Potent Brew works just fine. You could also go with Araska's Smoked Bear Hotch. It'll give you a little less max magicka and max stamina. Well, neither of them give max stamina, but it increases the recoveries for all three pretty substantially. So if you don't have Clockwork Citrus Fillet, those are some alternatives you could use.